Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
I don't know.
You have to have a favorite. What comes to mind?
You are listening to Scream with Ryan C. Showers, the podcast for Scream fans just like you. Join Ryan every week as he takes a deep dive into the horror film series that defined the 90s and redefined the genre. Scream with Ryan C. Showers is your source for scene and quote analysis, character dissections, and the latest news about upcoming installments of the Scary Movie franchise.
I hear you like horror movies, Kirby, but do you like them as much as him?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Scream with Ryan C. Showers. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers. Thank you for joining me for this week's episode where the film critic meets the Scream fan. So we are doing something very out of the box today, and that is talking about a movie called Cursed. Why would we be talking about this on a Scream podcast? Well, that, my friends, relates to the fact of who created it and why it was created. Of course, Cursed is a movie by Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson. August is Wes Craven's birthday, and I always try to do something for Wes on the podcast around this time, and I thought it would be interesting today to go through probably what was his most troubled production, and that's saying something. If you look at the totality of Wes Craven's career, making all of the Scream films, he faced extraordinary odds and challenges from the producers, local communities that were involved in the filmmaking process, the MPAA, fans leaking things online, actors, schedules. He has never had an easy time making the Scream movies, but throughout his career, you'll see that he often had to kind of go above and beyond for stuff, but nothing ever measures up to the movie Cursed, right? So I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes kind of describing the history of Cursed, and then we are going to talk about Cursed, me, Garrison, and Sam, who are from the Informed Nostalgia YouTube show, so check them out. We're going to be talking about their reaction to the new I Know What You Did Last Summer movie, their reaction to Cursed and kind of the production and everything that goes into it. And we're going to talk about the movie Wild Things, which is one of my personal favorites. And I always like to bring up Wild Things on the podcast from time to time. And it's been a good 2 years since I've done a Wild Things segment. So we're going to be comparing Wild Things to Scream. And obviously the link is Neve Campbell. But there's more there about duplicity, about people hiding their motives, and just about how the public and media interact with, quote, victims. So there will be some interesting discussion to be had in this episode. And of course, this is the first week of August. This is the first day of August. Appropriately, we will have the Taylor Swift song of the day be the song August from Folklore. So this is a jam-packed episode. And, before I go any further, I just want to wish Wes Craven a very happy birthday. Wes, we love you. Wes, thank you so much for giving us those first 4 amazing Scream movies and everything in your filmography, from A Nightmare on Elm Street to New Nightmare to Red Eye. We are eternally grateful for the beautiful stories that you told us over the years. So now let's go to one very specific story he tried to tell, Cursed. So Kevin Williamson wrote the script for Cursed. And this is a werewolf movie that would go on to star Christina Ricci, Jesse Eisenberg, and Joshua Jackson. The producers here were Dimension Films, Bob Weinstein, of course, the same people who brought us the Scream movies, who brought us H2O, The Faculty, things that we love, right? And at this point, you have to remember the Scream trilogy was kind of closing down. So they had Scary Movie, which was the parody, kind of tapping into the IP of Scream, sure, but there wasn't a dominant force in Dimension Films kind of pushing it forward like Scream had been. The Weinsteins looked at Cursed as the potential to be what Scream was for the slasher genre within horror. They wanted Cursed to be that for the werewolf subgenre within horror. So much so that they took Kevin's script, which was finished in the year 2000, so literally right after Scream 3. They took that, they got Wes Craven attached to be the director. So you had Kevin and Wes, the 2 main drivers of the original trilogy. Not only that, so they allegedly, it's been rumored that Neve Campbell was asked to be involved. I don't know if she was going to be the Christina Ricci character or if she was going to play another character, but the rumor mill says that she turned it down. So I'm kind of glad, right? It would have been interesting, but so not only do they have Kevin and Wes, but Skeet Ulrich, the, of course, iconic Billy Loomis, was attached to Cursed. He actually filmed 90% of his role on Cursed. before reshoots began and he was replaced with Joshua Jackson. So that's kind of wild, right? So they were really going after the Scream audience. They were really using the Scream formula, the Scream playbook, for lack of a better phrase. And it goes even farther than that. So they had Marco Beltrami doing the music, they had Patrick Lussier doing the editing, and Marianne Maddalena was producing. Whole Scream gang was really back together, trying to, it's almost as though they thought, "Ooh, we conquered the slasher genre. We're going to conquer the werewolf genre now." And continue this trend in horror movies and keep the team in place. Which honestly, the idea that you have Wes Craven, Kevin Williamson, Marco Beltrami, Patrick Lussier, Marianne Maddalena, and Skeet Ulrich all in the same movie, kind of creating this new werewolf movie, that is so cool, right? And that's, for me, the potential of taking the Scream team and just applying it to another subgenre within horror, that is so cool. And the potential of that, just, it's so lost, And I think, so from what I've been told, Kevin's original script for Cursed was, so a lot of people will say that it was good, it was satisfactory, but no one thinks it was as groundbreaking as Scream. So the thing about Cursed is, and they began filming this in 2003. It wasn't released until 2005. So the big thing about Cursed was the Weinsteins weren't happy with the first draft that was filmed. And as I alluded to earlier, Skeet Ulrich said that 90% of his role had been filmed. And he was one of the leads. It was allegedly Christina Ricci, Jesse Eisenberg, and him. And originally 3 strangers. So Christina Ricci, Jesse Eisenberg, and Skeet Ulrich were all connected by this car crash that happened. In the movie, it plays out way differently. So in the movie, it's Christina Ricci, Jesse Eisenberg, their brother and sister, not strangers, and Joshua Jackson plays her kind of toxic boyfriend. So it sounds to me that whenever Skeet left the production, his role as the third stranger kind of got nixed, if that makes sense. And a lot of what he brought to the table was given to the Joshua Jackson character. So again, the Scream connections and the changes in the production go pretty deep. So not only was Skeet Ulrich attached, he wasn't the only familiar face who was in the Scream family or in the Wes Craven family to be considered. Scott Foley, Roman Bridger, can you imagine that? Like that, having the 2 big ghost faces from the original trilogy in this movie. That would have been wild. James Brolin, Omar Epps, another Scream 2 person. Heather Langenkamp, oh my God, that would have been epic. So Mandy Moore, she was supposed to be like the Drew Barrymore. She was supposed to sing and be in the opening. It was supposed to be a big thing. It didn't happen. So in addition, the movie was shot to be a rated R movie, but of course the Weinsteins wanted it watered down to meet PG-13 standards, and the special effects were changed dramatically. So not only did the script go through several rewrites, but even the visual effects, they started out as more practical effects, and they transitioned over time, over the 3 cuts, to be completely CGI, which again looked cheaper and just not as rich and fulfilling as the original vision, right? And a lot of that kind of got lost in the edit as it went from R to PG-13. So the script's evolution is very interesting because it went from, 3, basically, how I'll describe it is the first script was about 3 strangers. Then it was changed to be the brother and sister. And the third version we got is the Weinsteins wanted more of the Sydney and Billy dynamic from Scream to be present here in Cursed. And at this point, it wasn't Skeet Ulrich, it was becoming Joshua Jackson who would take over this kind of role. So, and again, there is that Kevin Williamson connection of Dawson's Creek. So this was just so prominent, right? So as you may know, if you've seen Cursed, the identity of the werewolf is kind of like the whodunit of Scream. That's what makes the movie, that's why the Weinsteins were kind of hyper fixated on making this the next Scream, because it had the whodunit aspect. And the cool thing is the whodunit didn't change over the 3 versions that were shot. It was always Judy Greer. She was the main person. Scott Baio was actually playing himself in the movie as a cameo. He was her partner at one point, but Judy Greer was always the killer. It sounds like her role was beefed up from the original script. The original script didn't feature her so much, and as the drafts continued on, she got more screen time. But a lot of people are still unsatisfied with her as a killer. I don't mind her, and I wish that. And so it's funny because she was rumored to be in Scream 7. She would have played the Anna Camp role, I guess, and that didn't work out. So we have her in some way, part of the Scream family, even though she's not really. So this behavior of the Weinsteins was very typical of them of this time in the post-Scream world, the post-original trilogy world. They did this with Black Christmas. They did this with Scream 4, but never to this extent, never to this degree where they were basically filming 3 different versions of the same movie back to back to back. And just imagine that, the toll on Jesse Eisenberg and Christina Ricci having to give up, and Wes Craven and all of those creatives involved, giving up 3 years of their lives to this story that should have been simple and easy to do. In fact, Judy Greer commented once that, like, she said that she thought that the first cut was fine and there's no reason that they didn't release it. And it's true. So it's interesting because that the first cut of Cursed that features Skeet Ulrich as a lead, it does exist, okay? It doesn't have the full, it's not complete because, again, there was about 10% of the script that they didn't film, but it is out there somewhere. And I don't know, there's been a lot of chatter online about potentially releasing the Craven cut, for lack of a better phrase. And I think that would be so cool to see Skeet Ulrich in this way. Maybe one day, if the legal rights get worked out and if there is demand. So the budget has ranged anywhere from 30 to 100 million based on how much time they had to pay the actors and pay the crew to continue to film and reshoot. And it grossed only 29.6 million worldwide. 19 million of that was in the US and 10 million was international. I mean, Cursed was a disaster in a lot of respects. It took up a lot of time from the people who were making it, including Wes, who said he could have made 2 other movies in this time if it weren't for Cursed. And the demands of the Weinsteins continue on with this and that. I can't imagine like there was ever a more problematic production in history than the movie Cursed in terms of just like having to rework it and reshoot and refilm. I mean, literally, like, I wish that we could almost see the 3 different versions and just to compare. Whenever I get excited about Cursed or whenever I talk about Cursed or whenever I watch Cursed, I'm almost not even thinking about just the plain movie we're seeing. I'm thinking about everything that we've discussed and how where we started in terms of they were trying to bring all these cool people involved to make the werewolf version of Scream and how that just dwindled over time to be this nightmare of a production for all of those involved because of the demands of the studio. So anyways, that's the story of Cursed. And now before I go any further, I need to thank the producers of Scream with Ryan C. Showers. They include Ashley Summers from the Squirrel and Spud Shop. She and I host a Scream game every Wednesday on Instagram, so please check that out. I also need to thank TJ Jones, who comes from the Box Office Buds podcast. He is responsible for all of the graphic design of Scream with Ryan C. Showers in terms of new episode cards on social media promotion. So thank you so much to TJ for all he does. I also need to thank contributors Mark Karim, Mark Vieira, and Joey Velisi. Joey Velisi is the guy who writes the scripts for Scream with Ryan C. Showers. Episode 112, we wrote a Scream 7 script, which I read out loud, about the end of the Carpenter sisters storyline. And then the sequel to that was called Screams. It was centered around the legacy of Gail Weathers. That's episode 155. And Joey is currently working on the final Scream, which this is a product that is going to examine the relationship, the marriage of Mark and Sydney. Unlike the real Scream 7, this will feature Mark Kincaid as Sydney's husband, and she won't have a teenage daughter. Both of her daughters will be young, so it'll be much different than the real Scream 7 we're going to get. But that is going to be coming to the podcast late summer, early fall, so please tune in for that. I need to thank everybody over at Patreon. Thank you to everybody who subscribes to the Patreon at any and every tier. I'm an independent entity, so any bit of support that comes into the Patreon goes back into the podcast. Joining the Patreon gets you ad-free and early access to every episode, as well as the opportunity to join the community of the show. We have group chats across social media. In particular, Instagram is really the hub of the podcast community. More importantly, joining the Patreon is the vessel in which you would use to come onto the podcast, either in a one-on-one situation with me or a small panel. In addition, there's a guaranteed invite every month to a big group Zoom recording about a Scream topic. An exciting feature of the podcast is the audio commentary episodes. Every Scream fan knows what it was like listening to Wes Craven do the audio commentaries for the original trilogy and Scream 4, with Marianne Maddalena and Kevin Williamson and Patrick Lussier. And what I'm trying to do for my Patreon subscribers is I am going to be performing an audio commentary of a Scream or a Scream-related movie, one per month, every month. And my goal is to try to approach these as I'm doing deep analytical analysis about the characters, about the themes, about just general reaction. So it's something that I'm really proud of and I hope continues to be a cherished part of the podcast. So the commentary is available as a normal podcast episode for anybody to listen to like they would any other podcast, but it will also be available as a video watch along. So everybody, please go over to Patreon, subscribe to Scream with RCS. I would be eternally grateful. So I need to go through and thank everybody over at Patreon who is subscribed as a stab investor or a daddy/mama Ghostface. So the daddy/mama Ghostface of the Patreon are Carrie Tenney, Brett Janovich, Corey Wilson, and Stevie Shears. The stab investors include Allie, Mark Karim, Tamika Jones, David D., Garrison Nichols, Gustavo Mora, Jess Mariano, Joey Nobarini, aka The Vault, Josh Calamari, Josh Carr, Scream Queens podcast, both Josh and Justine, The Horror Project podcast, Justin Weir, Kevin Abner, Mark Vieira, PWO5, aka Philip Douglas, Quentin Harrison, and Sam Levy. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Scream with Ryan C. Showers and Informed Nostalgia. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers, and here are your hosts from Informed Nostalgia. Hey, Garrison.
Hey.
Abandon 06. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. Hey, Sam, how are you?
I'm excellent, Ryan. How are you?
I'm well. So, rumor has it, ... Do you guys remember that Jennifer Aniston movie from 2005? Rumor has it, ... that one of the people on this podcast was rubbing elbows with some of our favorite stars last night. I can't imagine who that would be from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Sam, why don't you enlighten us?
All right. Well, less than 2 weeks ago, our mutual friend of the podcast, Sarah Campbell, informed me that Charisma Carpenter was having a live recording of her podcast, her new Rewatch Buffy podcast, The Bitch is Back, in New York, and that there were going to be some special guest stars. And I joined her Patreon in order to attend it. And I got there early. I met a lot of really cool Buffy fans. I made some new potential friends, got some new phone numbers to hang out. There was like a nice little cocktail hour. I didn't take a picture of the menu, but I had 3 I think it, I say it tequila sunrises, but there were other drinks. There was a wake up in a coma mudslide. Like there were a lot of like really funny like drinks with Cordelia quotes on it. Then we went to the live recording of the podcast. We had to put our phones in these little black bags because we couldn't record anything, but it was amazing. So we had everybody come out. First of all, they give us the instructions on how to react, when to react, and what to say, and like do a little reaction shots, applauses, and whatnot. And then I didn't realize this. They introduced the moderator first. I didn't realize this because everybody, please look your moderator. All I heard was "cla," and so and everybody started clapping. So I just started clapping too, and I didn't have the best view of her until later. I didn't realize until halfway through the evening that the moderator was Claire Kramer, who played the Great Glorific. Because I had no idea, because I could see her, but not really. So I was like kind of like gasping. Then she looked great. Then, Charisma Carpenter came out. She looked gorgeous in this like stunning green dress, like with like one off the shoulder and one on. And then, so they weren't talking about a specific episode last night. It was just like a general, like kind of like live taping special. And then the couple of guest stars came out. And so the first one was Julie Benz, who played Darla, and she looked absolutely gorgeous in like this pink dress pantsuit combo with like a beautiful silver necklace. And she came out there, and it was they were all talking about their lives and like how they all became so close. And then at a certain point, Amber Benson, who played Tara, called to wish her happy birthday, and she FaceTimed us into the audience. And then the phone cut out, and then Amber like walked in a couple seconds later. So they were all sitting on the couch. We played a trivia game with them, and we all did like they could ask fans for help if they needed anything. And it was a really fun, really warm evening. And then, so they were all laughing. Amber's hilarious. And they were all like laughing. Everybody, it was a really great time. And then after the recording was over, we all moved into the bar, and there was a meet and greet opportunity and photo opportunities with everybody. Charisma was the person I got to speak to the least. It was her event. It was her birthday. She was sitting there like doing photos. Like everybody was lining up to do a photo with her. It was very controlled. It was very handled. I understand completely. But she was she was pro, and she was very sweet. And then when I finally got to sit down next to her and take a photo with her, and she just smiled at me, I just kind of melted. I was like, oh my God. Yeah, so it was really, really amazing. It was really amazing. And she was just like, what's your name? And I was like, Sam.
Well, Sam, I think it's so awesome, and I'm so happy for you. I mean, that's a dream come true for Buffy fans. Like, I mean,
thank you.
Cordelia is very special to all of us.
Of course.
So this is just such a cool opportunity. So happy you got to have this experience.
Thank you. I mean, the coolest part was even like getting to talk to the other ladies, because I got an even chance to like have more in-depth conversations with them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was so nice. It was really, really nice. So Amber is so cool. And so like she's so rad. She's a filmmaker, she's a writer and a director. And I went up to her. I thanked her specifically for being part of the first LGBTQ plus storyline that I really became emotionally bonded to as a kid. And I thanked her so hard for fighting for that storyline because she and Allison really did. And it was amazing. And then at a certain point, we were talking, and somebody brought up Seeing Red, and I gasped
Oh,
because
wow.
I was really. And she touched my arm, and she's like, "I know." She's like, "I know," and she's like, and it made her angry about the whole "kill the gays" trope, and she really has fought against that like her whole career. And I said, in the show's defense, I don't think that the show was that plot line was homophobic or punishing Tara and Willow for being gay. And she said, no, it wasn't at all. That was never the intent at all. But some of us knew that this was going to hurt a lot of people, and it did. And so ever since then, we've really been, she said she's been made it her mission to fight against that. And then I also spoke to Julie, who played Darla, the vampire who turned angel. And the second I walked over to her, she turned to me and she said, "Hello, sweetheart. Would you like a photo?" And she was so sweet. And then she asked me like what I do for a living and do I like it and if I was dating anybody. And and she was like, "Well, there's some nice single boys here. Maybe you'll meet someone." It was
Aw.
just it was such a lovely evening.
Well, Sam, please tell everybody where they can find you online.
Well, you can find me online on Instagram and Facebook at Sam B. Levy. And you can also find my fabulous YouTube show with my dear friend Garrison Nichols, Informed Nostalgia.
Did you happen to so while Sam was with Charisma Carpenter and Julie Benz last night, were you and Sarah Michelle Gellar hanging out, or was that just a rumor?
Sadly, it's just a rumor, but I did catch her, and I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Oh my God. That is the best transition anybody has ever given me. So, Garrison, please tell me what your thoughts are on I Know What You Did Last Summer.
I'm gonna say this. I have softened on it. I didn't see it secondly yet, but I all the times I've already quoted it, kind of like I quote Scream 4, but I hate Scream 4. I have the same exact feeling I have for Scream 4 as I did for the new I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Interesting. I mean, but I know you in Scream 4, and like you're kind of brutal about Scream 4. So even so, that's still not saying like much, in my opinion.
I just thought, like, you said something in the chat, like, there had to be a lot of interference, right? Because everything they needed was there. I needed more time with the cast before we had the accident. Like, I would have liked it if the movie would have started, the opening was, and I'm sorry, spoilers. Are we doing spoilers?
We're doing spoilers.
With Danica's new fiance being murdered, and then, like, that happening, and then they all get to come back because of that. Because I do find that they, like, I didn't have a good grasp on the friendship. Like, they just went through all this, but they're still friends and they're going to another engagement. I felt so weird about how am I supposed to feel? I think I would have enjoyed the movie if it wouldn't have been a sequel. And it just would have been a different movie because I'm going to compare it, right? Like, I'm going to compare it. Scream 4 is not a bad movie. I just compare it to the original trilogy. I Know What You Did Last Summer is probably a lot more fun, but I'm going to compare it to what I love. So if they would have just opened it there, had them all come back for that murder, and then I have a flashback, I think it would have been far more dynamic and enough different than the other ones. I would have actually liked the crazy feel of it, but I just felt like I just wasn't given enough time with characters. There wasn't enough tension, or if we're gonna go crazy and have Sarah Michelle Gellar have a cameo, make the whole movie that crazy because the tone was not there. I liked the cast. I thought Freddie Prinze Jr. was the worst he's ever been.
Brutal.
Jennifer Love Hewitt was great. Like, I wanted more of that.
I see this more as Scream 6 than it is Scream 4 to me. And so whenever I saw it, I was thinking, well, Garrison could like it because he likes Scream 6. So any thoughts on that little comparison?
No, like I think I Still Know What You Did Last Summer is a lot more like Scream 6 than this movie. I think this movie really tries to push the new cast like Scream 4 and has some quirky characters that work for people who may not be a fan of the originals, kind of like Scream 4. And I think we have too many characters that I can't get a good feel like Scream 4. Scream 6 had the intense moments. It had the suspense. It had great chase kind of scenes. This was a failure on a lot of the suspense, in my opinion. They just didn't give you enough time.
Yeah.
Like if Danica could have just ran a little bit more and we would have had a little bit more. Because I loved the graveyard scene. I thought it was well shot. It was creepy. I was like, ooh, I'm about to see something good. And then I didn't. I would have really liked, I think the dream sequence would have worked if she said she had dreams earlier, if she would have had a dream setting it up where it looked like her standing over the dead body. And then we have another dream and it's Helen. And then maybe if we would have actually seen her Kroger pageant or more about her Kroger pageant and more of the, that's another thing. If we're going to go back to the beginning, I need to see the 4th of July events again, even if in the background, because I have that tie back to the original where I'm feeling the nostalgia being met, but just not in my face. Like, just because you made her a Kroger queen, does it, I want to see more ties, especially if you're going to bring Sarah Michelle Gellar back to do that. Like, I didn't see, it wasn't enough. I think sometimes if a movie, because this movie is not so bad it's fun, and it's not good enough to be fun, so that's where the, middling is kind of worse than being bad.
And that's actually a very interesting comparison about the suspense between Scream 6, because Scream 6 undeniably has suspenseful sequences, right? The subway, Gail's scene, especially, a lot of people find the apartment scene. So, I mean, I'll grant you that. And that's something that I know she did last summer. It doesn't ace the suspense. I don't think it doesn't ace the horror stuff. It can be fun without being perfect, if that makes sense. So it's just interesting. But yeah, you were somebody I thought would like it, and I was like, see, the movie is really divisive. Like if Garrison can't get on board, I'm like, shit is hitting the fan here. So, but Garrison, please tell everybody where they can find you.
Yes, you can find me on Instagram at abandon06. I think I'm still abandon06 too on TikTok. I mean, I'm mostly on Instagram. Me and Sam's YouTube show is, we really love to discuss things, and I really am big on nostalgia. Like, I love to talk about my love for horror movies, like music I found from old horror movies, and everything 90s and anything like that in 2000. So I wanted to come up with a show that we just discussed everything that we miss, and maybe like understand, do we miss it because it was good? Do we miss it because just it's nostalgic? And also we can like go down rabbit holes and see like if we missed something or discovered something new within, the past. So that's, if you like that kind of stuff. And we also play games like Jeopardy, and people from Ryan's been a guest, and people from his Patreon have been a guest, like Sarah and Ashley.
We love it. Oh my gosh. And Zach Cherry's been a guest on your show. So I mean, like,
Cherry, yes.
it's a really fun thing. And like, I'm just so proud of you guys, because I've known you guys as individuals, right? As friends, and like, just to see you guys like form this, like, I guess you had friendship before, but like to form this partnership, because that's different than friendship. It's different to be working with someone as opposed to being friends with somebody. And you guys do it well. You guys match really well, and I love the duo. I love, like, just being able to sit here and be like, oh, tonight is Garrison and Sam. I have a little group chat with you guys. It's just like, it's fun, and I think it's awesome for you guys. So congratulations on your show, everybody. Go follow, go subscribe on YouTube, watch their show. It's very fun. So yeah. And speaking of nostalgia, so is it good? Is it bad? So I invited Sam and Garrison tonight to, first of all, this is the first day of August. So happy August, everybody. Summer's almost over. I hate the heat. I mean, I know, Garrison, down where you are, it's always hot, but up where me and Sam are, like, this heat has got to stop. I mean, I hate it. I'm looking forward to fall. But it's August, everybody. So tomorrow is Wes Craven's birthday, August 2nd. I chose a very weird topic for his birthday. So every year I try to do some Wes topic just to give him extra love, even though I give him love every episode. But so, one of his most controversial movies, not because of him, but because of the way that the studio produced this movie, it led to this being, kind of a legendary movie known for something negative. Let's just say that. So everybody, let's talk about Cursed. Is it, first of all, are we nostalgic for Cursed? Is it informed nostalgia? I don't know. That's why I invited the Informed Nostalgia crew to help me solve this equation. Sam, what are your thoughts? I mean, I kind of made Sam do this topic, and I feel guilty because it's such a bad movie. And Sam is also a tough critic. Like, he's really tough. And I was just like, oh no, what have you done, Ryan? So Sam, hit me with it. What are your thoughts on Cursed?
Oh, Gewalt. All right. Well, I hated it. I've always hated it. I understand that it had like I told you, it's hard to think of a more apt title for a movie than this. I will say that I understand that it had a really, really extremely troubled production, and that led to the mishmash of what the end result was. I know there are some people who appreciate it for its campiness. Don't really. I mean, I think that that's the only way really to appreciate it. But at the time, considering how Scream 3 at the time was considered a real disappointment, I think a lot of people were really excited at the thought of a reteaming of Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson. And what the end result managed to be was just so incredibly hokey and unbelievable and really just a mess on so many different levels that it was just a real letdown. I understand that there are people who love the film.
Are there though? I mean, are there people who love Curse? I mean, I think there are people who like Curse. Like, I think
Yes, I think there may be somebody right here on this particular show who does want to cede the microphone over to him because this is really something that he was more enthusiastic about. And so I really please just pass this over to Garrison because I really want to give him the chance to talk about why he's so excited to talk about this.
Well, so and it's funny because Sam, whenever he was rewatching Cursed, he texted Garrison and me, and he said, "I'm never speaking to either of you again," which I thought was hilarious. So, Garrison, is it appropriate to say you love Cursed, or do you like it?
I was in high school when it came out, and I can compare this. I can relate it to I Know What You Did Last Summer too, if you want to. But I was so hyped for this movie because I had this movie was one thing that made me addicted to the IMDb message boards, and I know if people were around during that time. There was articles always coming out about the making of this movie. It was a really big deal on the internet when it was being filmed the first time because there's basically 1.5 movies. They almost finished filming the movie and then they reshot the movie. And I was a big Mandy Moore fan. She was going to be one of the big cameo kills. She wasn't going to play Jenny, but she was going to be a character like Jenny, Maya's role in the movie. And there was just Skeet Ulrich was going to be in the movie. I love Christina Ricci. There was always a rumor that Neve Campbell was going to be was offered it, but she would have to do Scream 4. And it was just a rumor. I couldn't find the article when I was getting ready for this episode. But there was articles for this stuff back then in 2003 when they were filming the first movie.
Yeah, it was the first version of the movie, right?
And it was so much I found there's pictures that were released in 2022 of the original filming, and I swear Nicole Richie's in one of them for a background scene with Scott Baio, and I was like, I didn't even know about that. The Werewolf looked really good and they used some of that footage because you can see some of the practical werewolf, but then they have the CGI intertwined. But for the reason why I love it, I love all that lore of who all was supposed to originally be in, all those A-listers from the 2000s, and I just thought that's going to be a fun movie, and what we got was a fun movie. Yeah. I didn't hate it in high school when I saw it. It just wasn't what I was promised, so I was disappointed. Now, I rewatched it a lot as an older teen and in my 20s, and I just had such a fun time with it. And I think I love it so much because I was really young when it came out, so it's very much of its time of the 2000s. The people who are in it, the humor that's in it, the very self-aware, but also you can tell in the movie, which this could be a criticism of some, but I loved it, that they just didn't give a shit anymore, and they were just going to do things that were fun. And I think that's fine. They leaned into it, so I had a great time, especially whenever you get to the third act. It's just bonkers. And Judy Greer's having the best time of her life, and Christina Ricci's having a great time, and the werewolf's flipping people off because they're calling her ass bony and stuff. I'm like, this is wild, but I'm having a great time.
It's hard because I love this. I love the potential of this movie. I love the idea of this movie of Kevin and Wes teaming back up and Dimension wanting to make the werewolf version of Scream, or trying to, trying to create that same kind of magic, and also having Skeet Ulrich in it. The story behind Cursed makes me endeared to it more than I am endeared to it just as the film itself. And it's hard because it's not a great film. And as I was watching it in preparation for the podcast, it is objectively ridiculous in so many respects, and it is objectively messy. But within that, I find some, I don't know if it's respect, but I find some love for it, some warmth for it, just because of the story we know about the back of production, the story that we know of, the Weinsteins kind of messing with the creative process, making them refilm over and over, and seeing the mess that's there, and seeing, I guess, the fun that is throughout within the mess, if that makes sense. So, it's not something that I would consider like a great movie in the way that the Scream 1, 2, and 3 are great movies, but it's something that like I don't mind watching. I would watch it, easily if someone asked me to. It's just a matter of like, it's weird to think that like the story behind the movie makes the movie better. Does that make sense?
Agree with that 100%. Like just looking for little bits of the old movie makes watching it fun too.
Yeah. And like the thing about it is, and the thing that makes it like feel like Scream in a way, the Scream feel is there because, they're in Los Angeles. There's a lot of like specific pop culture things about it. It's about the industry, for lack of a better phrase. It feels like the cast of Scream 1, 2, and 3, if that makes sense. So there's something very fun about that. And there's a gay storyline that for the time I think would have been interesting as representation. So what are your thoughts on the gay storyline, Garrison? And then I'm going to hit Sam about this because I'm curious what he thinks.
I guess on paper, it would feel kind of problematic on how bullying he is and the things that he says in the movies. I'm not really offended by it because I grew up in that time and that it's not an excuse. I think Milo plays the role very sweetly though once he becomes out, so it's very forgivable even though it's terrible how the things he says. So I actually enjoy their chemistry as well. Like he's like, "No, I'm not gay, but I'll be your friend anyway," and he's like all of a sudden sweet, but it makes sense because that's the thing I want to say about the. I think a lot of this ridiculousness that would not work on paper works because Wes is great with actors, right? Like everybody in the movie is balanced again, like the first three Scream movies, even though it's not a great. I don't feel like I didn't spend enough time with most of the characters in this movie. I find that I get enough of the characters. I find that the storylines, even though ridiculous, like that gay storyline, I buy them as a friend group at the end. But all within 2 days, like he came out as gay, wants to be with this guy, broke up with his girlfriend, and now they're all three friends by the end of the movie. But I bought it because it feels organic for some reason, the way they throw it out there.
Yeah. Sam, how about you? What are your thoughts on the gayness of Cursed? Hated it. I'm sorry. Just teasing.
I know that I'm glad that Kevin Williamson like finally directly addressed like, this aspect of his own personal life and put it on film in that way. I have no problem with the storyline in theory. I think that like the rest of the movie, it's like utterly ridiculous. And so I don't even know what they were going for on any level, whether it was as a werewolf film or in terms of anything else. I know that Werewolf in the past sometimes occasionally can be used as a metaphor for something else, but I feel like it's barely worked, which I think is usually why it's kind of considered a more old-fashioned genre than like other films like zombies or vampires. But I had no problem with the storyline itself being there. Didn't think it was any more. I just didn't think it was like anything more realistic or believable than anything else that was happening in the film. But I don't fault the actors for being there and just trying to sell like the line as much as they could. And listen, young Jesse and young Milo were pretty cute. But I thought it was very cool that of course, as this happens sometimes, like guys who bully people they perceive as gay in high school turn out to be gay later in life themselves because they're dealing with like their own lack of self-acceptance. And I thought it was I actually thought it was a pretty enlightened and chill, non-issue way of being like, I know I'm not gay, but I'll still be your friend. Because that's happened to pretty much every gay man I know. So it's nice to see, a gay guy, like a straight guy gently turns down a gay guy's affections, but they are able to remain friends because those are like one of the few things that we're able to cling to in real life. And so it helps, and I'm glad it's nice to see that on screen.
Yeah, no, and I think that the way you said the chill aspect, it really does feel chill. It's just the way that it's executed, I think, is actually pretty well done for 2005. But you mentioned metaphors in terms of werewolf movies. I think to me, every time I've watched the movie, I've thought that the metaphor here is STDs. Because he's sleeping with the different women and like this is all cursing them in a way. I don't know. Am I ridiculous for that? It's just every time I've watched it, I'm just like it's like the Leonardo DiCaprio meme. I'm like, yes, there it is. So, Garrison, what are your thoughts?
And I actually agree with you because I thought about that when I watched it on Sunday. I was like, they mention a lot about the womanizing of Joshua Jackson's character and that she was just looking for some, great sex that she got cursed. And it's all these women like going after him, right? So then their reputations and all that. Like it has everything in there for that. So I do agree. It's not super in your face. Like you kind of have to like not want to say look for it. I'm older now, so I like understood what they were doing. And I want to say like I don't necessarily think that the gay love storyline is actually the gayest thing. I think Judy Greer is the gayest thing about this movie. Like putting on like what is it, Celine Dion's outfit from the Wax thing and like trying to kill everybody, like and like being sassy and shit. So I think that was a good. But I do agree with you. I think there always is a metaphor of like the beast, like the rawness. Like I love the werewolf genre. I wish we had more. Like I love Ginger Snaps. It's like one of my favorite horror movie series. Like not my favorite, but it's one of my favorites. And I really was excited for this. And I think that and I love the TV show Teen Wolf. So I think that this is another yet again. I'm going to a different spot subject. Sorry, but it was just so fun.
No, I agree. Like, I think that like it's the fact that you can interpret this as an STD kind of a thing makes me again a little bit more endeared to it. Like, ooh, there was something deeper here. It wasn't, and like even like Judy Greer's motive, which I understand. Like, it is kind of basic, and it's a very like old school catty, girl on girl, whatever thing. But at the same time, I think it flows fine. Like if there was a Scream movie in the mid 2000s that did this motive, I would kind of shrug. I'd be like, okay, this is okay. I mean, it's better than Scream 6. No offense, Garrison. But like the motive was fine. Like, I don't know. But I guess like the thing about Judy Greer being the killer is, she's such a fabulous actress, and she's the type of person out in the universe, in the horror genre, who deserves to have who deserves to be a Ghostface killer. And this is like even though she's not technically a Ghostface killer, she's kind of a Ghostface killer because of this. She was directed by Wes Craven, written by Kevin Williamson, to be the person behind the whodunit. So yeah, and the bad visual effects. It is what it is. It's disappointing. Like there's so much potential in this movie. Even like within the set pieces, like the House of Mirrors set piece, I thought is really cool. Like there's just so many different things that like that they could have done, like especially as it relates to the industry. I think like it has like a very Scream 3 feel in that way, but even more direct, even more real life than Scream 3 is. And I hate to say it, but like I don't hate the production values of the movie. Like, it feels I get the sense of their real life from this. So, I don't know. It's a hard movie for me to pin down because, on the one hand, like I agree with Sam. It's a ridiculous movie and a very messy movie. But on the other hand, I'm so intrigued by it and intrigued by what could have been from this movie, and the production and the backstory of it all, and like finding the shots of Christina Ricci from the first movie that they filmed and then the second versus the third, because she gains and loses weight between the different cuts, and you can literally see it. I mean while you're watching the movie. So anyways, so all right, and gentlemen, final thoughts on Cursed here. We'll start with Sam.
All right, well, one thing I'll say is I think part of the reason for the casualness of the gay storyline and the brother's acceptance of his former bully so quickly is because he's got like a werewolf tearing through their lives and making things hell. And so he's probably like, all right, fine. He's like, fine. But the other thing is, I will say, if nothing else, considering all the casting like twirling around, I will say that I think that despite the ridiculousness of the premise, I think that Christina Ricci really had the right look to play a werewolf. Love her. I think that like with her amazing saucer eyes and like the curvature of her mouth, like there was really like a great potential for her to be. I think that was a good casting choice. And especially with her mystique and her aura, I think that was spot on.
Even like the poster of Cursed, I think is good because of the way that she looks on it. Because like the way that the Cursed poster is, it's like half of her face, and like it's the eye that's prominent to make the werewolf of it all. So I agree with you. And like this could have been a great final girl. This could have been an interesting relationship, siblings. I actually would say that it's an interesting relationship between siblings in a horror movie, even as is. So I don't know. Garrison, any final thoughts?
Yeah, like I want to say that this is probably one of the last movies from that era that did what it did. Like it has a solid like reveal. Like I feel like people don't nail that ending very well anymore. Even like Wes Craven himself in Scream 4, I don't really love that. I mean, I think that Emma Roberts does a fine, okay job in that. But I think this third act was fun. Like the reveal was fun. I think it showcases a huge, wonderful cast very well that we don't get as much anymore. I don't think they pay for this kind of young cast to all be together that are all well established and one where you can go see. So I think it's one of the last things that I loved about my childhood in horror that's out there. I love that you can partake in the lore of the movie as well as you want to. And I love that it's, they spend a whole bunch of money to make a crazy movie, and we don't do that as much anymore. Sometimes we just flash and go through and let it, and you kind of get some couple of laughs and fun, but it's not as lasting. Because I think a lot of the craziness in the movie is slightly iconic and it's very nostalgic, but in a way where you can put it on and you get sucked in, even if you hate it. Like, I think Wes Craven's great about that, because with Scream 4, I don't like the movie, but I still will quote it. That's why I think I'll end up liking I Know What You Did Last Summer, because I'm quoting it in the chat all the time, and like, obviously it had some kind of effect on me. But it's just, I have respect for a movie that's not good, but it's entertaining. And I think this movie is highly entertaining and has a lot to offer, even though it's not a good movie.
Yes, Diva. So... Okay, well, gentlemen, we're moving on to our next topic. This has been kind of like an amalgamation of things. It's just so many things have been happening recently. So, okay, Sam brought this to my attention, and I had kind of an RCS screaming fangirl moment whenever I realized this. But like, I am a huge fan of the movie Wild Things. Obviously, Neve Campbell, but it goes farther than Neve Campbell. It's such a fun movie. It's so twisty, and like it's just and on top of being nostalgic, it's just has a really cool storyline, and you don't know who's telling the truth until the very, very end, and who's the smartest one of the bunch. It's sexy and it's soap opera-y and it's fun. And I've talked about it before on the podcast, and I'm going to do an audio commentary for it. We'll do a big episode about Wild Things next year, in fact. But Sam wanted to discuss, or he brought it to my attention, this idea of like comparing, like, say, Susie, who is played by Neve Campbell, who is, spoiler alert for Wild Things, she turns out to be the victor of the foursome in Wild Things, and comparing her to, say, a Jill Roberts, and what Jill's motive is and the evil genius of her. So Sam, please take it away.
Thank you, Ryan. It's funny. It wasn't even that methodical. I just kind of drew that comparison on a whim, because I happened to be watching it while there was a discussion about the Scream movies, like in the group chat. So first of all, I always enjoy watching that movie because that movie is just so delightfully slutty. It's just I love. It's like a dirty little slut. And it's just...
I say the same thing about your YouTube show.
Okay, girls. So that movie, it's so much fun, because it's really like an old-fashioned noir, but brought up to the 90s, where you can be more explicit. And in the idea, and the whole bisexuality thing just like doubles the opportunity for double crosses. But what happened was, Scream 4 got brought up in the chat, and I happened to be watching Wild Things at the time. And I realized, the whole "don't fuck with the original" quote obviously refers to Sidney Prescott, but Neve Campbell happened to be there playing Susie Toller, and I was just like, this is like a really fun analogy. I think even more so because Susie turns out to be also a criminal mastermind, except Susie gets away with it.
Yeah.
The difference, of course, being that once you find out what the other parties in the scheme did to her, you want her to get away with it. So it turns out that like the whole foursome scheme was a way to her to just get rid of all of them. And she does, and she gets away with it. But I think really what I noticed after thinking about this was the way that, because Wild Things, maybe not intentionally, but kind of, maybe sort of, it's a Scream adjacent film.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It is absolutely a Scream adjacent film, not only because it has the star of the franchise in it, but because it uses a lot of the young talent at the same time. And it's also like a twisty crime thriller. And what I've noticed about the Scream franchise, is that it's kind of developed its own ecosystem, where other movies that are made that are Scream adjacent will branch out into different territory, but will feed off the energy of the Scream universe and like bring its own ideas into it. So things like Wild Things, Jawbreaker, which I'm not a huge fan of, but I know a lot of people like, my Golden Diamond Baby, Cruel Intentions, like all of these movies, like they kind of, there's the energy, the synergy of the Scream universe and the stars that have appeared in it have brought this mystique and sexy, cool, empathetic, funny horror genre to whatever they're playing. But they bring that, but they also bring the other ideas. Like, I love the fact that also, unlike Mickey in Scream 2, Susie Toller gets her day in court.
She gets her
And
day in court.
she gets her day in court, and also, but she uses it to her advantage. And there are little things that you pick up on, like that you don't notice the first time. Like, for instance, in the scene where Denise Richards' character's Kelly is testifying in court about supposedly being raped by Matt Dillon's character Sam, there's a quick shot of her cutting away from her to Neve Campbell's character Susie staring intently at her. And initially it's like you're looking at her and it's just, and that's a really telling shot, but you don't realize until later. It's just like, why is she gazing at her with such like steely determination? You realize she's like focusing on her to make sure that she's doing it right. She's telling their story exactly as they planned it out, and that she doesn't make any mistakes. And it's like that's a clue early on that she's really pulling the strings here. But yeah, but it's not really. But the movie lays it out so well that you would not necessarily figure it out until later. I love it.
And that's like, I think, first of all, the way you described the ecosystem of Scream and the way that its stars and the similar topics have branched out and they bring the energy of Scream to their other projects. Like, I feel like Sam just described my entire 5 years of this podcast, because that's literally, I mean, like what I do with the show and like why I'm able to talk about Wild Things and why I'm able to talk about Cruel Intentions and all these other, and Buffy and all these things that I love, right? And that you love and that all the Patreons love and all the listeners love is because they're all connected, they're all interconnected, and Scream's kind of like the base. But there is something interesting about Wild Things because each of the characters they're playing each other, they're playing the town, they're playing everybody and anybody. And it's similar to a Ghostface killer in a way, because Ghostface killers, they're performing in front of Sydney and Gail and Sam and Tara and whomever else until the finale, of course. And with Wild Things, each of the characters, I guess, like they get their own finale until Susie gets to be revealed as the matriarch of the group in terms of like the true mastermind of being the person who prevails and gets the money and everything. So I love that. Garrison, what are your thoughts here on this comparison that Sam is drawing between Wild Things and Scream?
Well, I definitely think it has like the same dark but fun tone. Like, I feel like that's something that people try to recreate that I guess is just something that's gonna die with the 90s. Because there's just something how this movie balances being very dark and subject matter, but fun to watch, and also creepy and fun and like sexy, and all at the same time. It balances that. I just find that that's really hard to do. I know they tried to do that with like Do Revenge and things now. It doesn't necessarily work totally. I do agree that it does feel like Scream. I don't know if it's because, and I could be wrong, is it on film, like, or it's the same kind of cinematography that Scream had? Like, very movies back then just looked very epic in the way it's filmed, and it does do that. I do think the very quippy language, even though it's not like Scream, they're very fast with how they speak to each other and quick, so it makes it very fun to watch them interact. And it's violent.
It's very violent. I mean, it's violent, but we don't really see the violence so much, right? But it's all implied. Like, and it's very dark because it's about murder and like, the characters are killing each other. And like, well, and part of the fun of the movie is we don't see the violence. So we don't really know what's going on when this person dies or this person actually dies. So in the mystery of Wild Things plays into that, which is fun. So Sam, I want to take your idea and just go up a notch, which is, I would argue that Susie is Jill Roberts, but Kelly is Mickey, because Kelly is like, I mean, how the movie starts out is her wanting the day in court. I don't know if Susie, I mean, it's hard because it's like, do we judge the characters based off of the first half of the movie before we know what's really going on? Or, or do we judge them based off of like the end result? And I know the correct answer is the end result, but it just feels like Kelly is more so than Mickey wanting to create this big public spectacle and make a big statement, if that makes sense. I don't know what at least her motives before we learn that this was all just a setup to get the money. What are your thoughts?
Well, that's interesting. I never really thought of Kelly as Mickey. I mean, I suppose that it could be. It could be. You know what, though? That is interesting. I like that take on it. I'm not sure if I agree with it yet, but considering that Mickey was not the mastermind of his killing spree, even though he was doing most of the work, I can kind of see. Yeah, actually, yeah, no, you know what? You're right. That actually makes more sense, because he would have been like going on the stand and being like, try to convince everyone that he's innocent because he's crazy. And Kelly is trying to also convince like everybody of something that is not true. So that's a really, really good point. Yeah, Susie is obviously, of course, more like Jill. But again, someone who, once we find out why she's doing it, is somebody who we want to see get away with it.
I think
So I like that.
that's the difference, I think, between the Ghostface killers and Susie. I have immense empathy for Susie. I have empathy for her before, and I have empathy in Act 1, I have empathy in Act 2, and I have empathy at the end, even though she is the villainess in a way. But I don't know, like in terms of Jill, like
Yeah, that wasn't her money. She wasn't
No.
entitled to it, but yes.
But, in terms of Jill, I think that Susie, the reason why Susie succeeds where Jill fails is Susie's ego isn't involved, right? Susie is okay. I guess they both really mutilate themselves. Susie allows her teeth to be taken out. Neve Campbell lets her teeth to get taken out. But and Jill obviously does everything under the sun to make it look like she is the victim to the media. But I think that Jill, she talks too much and she gets too excited about things before they're final. Whereas Susie, even whenever she says, a little bit of poison, she's still cool, calm, and collected, waiting it out. So I don't know. Garrison, what are your thoughts here?
I like Susie far more than Jill. I would probably relate Susie to more of a Roman or a Miss Loomis because they're more long gamey. I think Jill's really immature and not very good at what she did in the movie, and I think Susie's like a mastermind. Like she does a really good job, like you've already said it, with restraint and really like playing a character, well, which Jill did do, but I think she did it well. Like she played this character that everybody wanted her to be, and that's not her. And she's like, you know what, I'm going to play the long game and do all of this, and she's successful at the end. And Jill couldn't even do that for one move, like for whatever. But I agree. I feel like Susie could be all the original Ghostface, or the 1 through 4, because she's just that good. Like that's good at like the Mrs. Loomis.
She's that bitch.
Yeah, like she changed her whole got new teeth, got a whole new hairstyle, moved away.
Mrs. Loomis, it's called a makeover. You should try it. Look, you're looking a little tired yourself there.
That makes it even more tied to Scream, in my opinion. Now that y'all talk about that, like she just took all the notes.
I'm going to advance this discussion, and I'm prepared, okay? But so we have two other characters here who complete our quadret of people here. We have Kevin Bacon, who plays Ray Tuquette, who is the cop, right? And we have Matt Dillon, who is Sam Lombardo. Such a great name. See, this is the thing I miss about movies. I miss movies where the characters had great names. Like every character in the movie here, the name is fantastic. But Sam Lombardo, okay? Which Ghostface would Matt Dillon be? Which Ghostface would Kevin Bacon be? I don't know. What are our thoughts?
Lombardo makes me feel like Billy,
Billy, yeah,
gross and like the toxic masculinity, kind of like I don't know, but I want to play a sad trouble boy,
playboy, and the playboy aspect, right? Because Billy was fucking Christina Carpenter and trying to fuck Sydney, and who else was he fucking, right? And Matt Dillon, like his character is such a playboy in this movie. Like you see it, they make a point of it, like that he dates like richer women than him, and like the whole movie is premised off of him being a slime ball, right? And the threesome of it all. So I think he is definitely Billy. So Sam, what are your thoughts?
Sure. I will go along. I mean, I'm trying to think. I don't really, because of the time piece when it came out. Listen, he could also be Mickey too. But yeah. I think that because of because he appears to be leading, because he appears to be in charge, but he's not really. But it's definitely I think he definitely is more a Billy Loomis analog, especially considering the time when it came out. I don't think anybody else would relate to. I don't think there's any other person to compare him to in that sense. As far as Kevin Bacon goes, I mean, the obvious answer would be Detective Bailey. But yeah, I'm trying to. That's just because they're both like terrible cops. But yeah. That's what that's who I would go with.
I think that's actually, I would agree with that, because there's also something in the way that like Ray Tuquette interacts with both Susie and like he grabs her neck in that one scene. Like that just feels very like Detective Bailey and Sam coded to me. And just his interaction with the obsession with the Van Ryans, right? I think that like that's very much Detective Bailey kind of obsessing over Sam and Billy Loomis and the legacy. Garrison, what are your thoughts?
I agree with that. Like I don't think that Kevin Bacon's character is crazy enough to be like a Stu or any of the others, but I do think he's gross enough to be Bailey, because I like when Bailey reveals himself in 6, I'm just like, I am over this character and he's annoying, and it just gives me a gross feeling.
Okay, I love it. Well, I love that we've cast the Wild Things foursome as the Ghostface killers. That was an unexpected development here. We love it. So we have Neve Campbell, aka Susie Toller, as Jill Roberts. Garrison said Roman or Mrs. Loomis there, I could see that too. So we're going to put like Jill and then like Roman and Mrs. Loomis underneath. Kelly is going to be Mickey. Sam Lombardo, played by Matt Dillon, is Billy Loomis. And Kevin Bacon, Ray Duquette, he is Detective Bailey. So fun. Oh my gosh, guys, this was such informed nostalgia. I love this. I love the name, by the way, because and I will say, contrary to Julie James, whom I do love, despite her not getting a big action moment in I Know What You Did Last Summer, nostalgia is not overrated. So I don't know. What are our thoughts on that line as a way to close up? Garrison?
I think probably according to people like Julie James and even Sidney Prescott, probably nostalgia is overrated because their nostalgic past is tainted. But I think nostalgia can just make you feel, in a way, can make you feel comforted, and it's not about actually capturing the look and the thing. It's like a feel. It's a feeling, and if you can capture the feeling of nostalgia, I think that is something important. That means you did something right. Like, you do have to add new stuff in to capture that nostalgic feel, because if you're just going after the past, you can never recreate that. You have to recreate a feeling. So if it's exciting, if it has suspense, if it has well planned, strategically placed cast members and the actual chase scenes that work, but it has to work, because those weren't created to totally be like something else. Like, those are movies made to be like Scream wasn't made to be like even though it was made to be something new. And I Know What You Did Last Summer was copying that by also being like a straight kind of slasher. So I think instead of like trying to remake stuff like scene by scene, we just make it in the theme of it. Kind of like
I
Curse.
love
Curse
that.
wanted it to be the werewolf version, so it was something new. That's why I think it's different, because I could compare it to Scream, but Scream was not about werewolves and stuff and about bringing in huge, even though they did in some of the movies cast. It was trying to do something new yet capture the feeling, and I think that's why it's a little bit more successful, in my opinion. Almost 20 years later.
That's a beautiful description. I love that. Oh my God. And I love to remember what you say. I'm going to write it down. Actually, I'll make a post, and I'll make a post of this. And then I'd love to see and think about Scream 7 after we see it, and see how everything you just said about nostalgia, how it matches up to that. So very nice, Garrison. Sam, any thoughts? Do we think Julie James was out of her mind when she said nostalgia is overrated?
No, I don't think Julie James is out of her mind at all, because the past that she had to overcome is not something that she would want to go back to. So I get that. Mind you, how happy or well-adjusted she was in the present day is open to questions, considering that she lives alone in a house with like 100 security cameras. But at the very least, she does seem to be dealing or attempting to manage her trauma, and I respect her for that. And as far as real life nostalgia goes, I think it can be overrated if you are using it as a crutch because you cannot deal with your present situation, or if you are too bound up in your past that you're constantly going back to it as a comfort. But I do think the good point of nostalgia, even if you're troubled today, the good use for it is to put you back in touch with your youthful innocence and optimism before life trauma dumped on you. Because if you can recapture that feeling of what you were like when a kid, and it reopens your heart to the point where you feel like, where you believe in yourself again, and you believe that you can accomplish your goals and overcome whatever it is that's been dumped on you, I think that is a really helpful tool and a really good point of reference. So yes, in that, I'd say nostalgia absolutely can be beneficial.
This philosophy over here from the Informed Nostalgia crew is like moving me tonight. And it's funny because we'll end the show with just this last thing, going to what Sam just said, using nostalgia as a crutch. I definitely at times have used nostalgia as a crutch. And it's funny because even this podcast, I think this started out of a nostalgia crutch in a way during COVID. And, I realized something recently, I was leaning on nostalgia in my present for a long time. And I kind of stopped the other day and I realized, oh, wow, wait, this nostalgia, I'm not using this as a crutch anymore. And I feel like, oh, wow, things are just living for the moment and living for the future. So I think that's the beautiful thing about nostalgia. I think sometimes it can get us through hard times, like a lot of us faced in the pandemic. And that's great because it can lead us to wherever we're supposed to be. So, and with that note, thank you both so much for coming. This was a wonderful discussion. A very a very unique, a very uniquely structured and topic episode. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to August with Ryan C. Showers and Ashley Summers. I'm Ryan C. Showers, and this is Ashley Summers. Hey, Ash.
Hi, Ryan.
Welcome to August. Oh my gosh. So it's fun because August is the name of the Taylor Swift song of the day, of the week, because we didn't have a Taylor Swift song on Tuesday. And today is the first day of August. Tomorrow is Wes Craven's birthday. There's a lot in the air. There's a lot to celebrate. And personally, I'm really excited for the month of August. August is like my birthday month, so I'm always excited for August. But this August is especially cool because it is like there's just some fun things we have planned for the podcast this month. So H2O originally came out on August 5th. So on Tuesday, there's going to be a really special Scream 7 H2O episode I'm really pumped about. But in addition, like there's going to be some other Halloween stuff since I'm making like this August, like the H2O month, if that makes sense, leading up to my birthday. And I have a really cool idea for my birthday, which is on a Monday this year. It's going to be 30 reasons why Scream 3 is my favorite because I'm turning 30. So yeah, long introduction, but August. So first of all, if you look on social media, you'll see Taylor Swift fans today posting, all about August, all about the song, celebrating this specific song. And I don't know why, it's interesting. Do you think this is just an August thing? Do you think it's because people love this particular song? Or do you think it's just kind of like more emblematic of the entire Folklore Evermore moment? What are your thoughts on that, Ash?
I think it's both. There is a really huge love for this song. I think people are really drawn to it, really connected to it. I think there is like the love triangle aspect of this song. And I feel like people just seem to have a connection to it. And I think so many people relate to this song. It's personally not one of my like number ones, but it's one of those songs that whenever I listen to it, I'm like, why don't I have this higher? Because it's so good.
Well, can I ask? So, I have two follow-up questions based off of what you just said here. One, do you identify with August within what she's saying in terms of how she feels, like the insecurity she feels about herself? I don't want to say desperation, but there is an element of her that is accepting a lot less than she deserves. And that's kind of the tragedy of August. So that's something that I deeply understand in my soul. Not necessarily the cheating aspect of it, not exactly the illicit affair of it all, but the feeling like, you're chasing someone and you want someone so bad and they see you as convenient. I think that is something that I deeply get in my soul. And that's why, like you said, I'm not like it's never been like one of my favorite songs. But this time, it kind of became one. I'm not gonna lie. So, what are your thoughts?
No, I definitely relate to it. I think if I hadn't heard because with this album, if I'm being completely honest, I listened to it a few times and then I was like, I can't listen to this right now because like I was like, I need to take like a week and process because it was so different than like anything we had got before. So I just stopped. And then by then we had so much information and I heard kind of like this theory about like where these songs are connected. And I immediately now, like, I only associate it with like these three fictional characters that are in here. But I have so much empathy for this character because I can understand how they're feeling. Not exactly, but that, especially that teenage heartbreak of liking somebody so much and just being like, I'm willing to sacrifice some dignity and maybe have a little shame put in this just so that I can spend time with this person. And it's just like, oh, like thinking about like my younger self, I'm like, I mean, obviously it's a good learning lesson, but I kind of want to be like, you deserve so much better than that. And like, you're going to get better than that. But, we all have that. Usually there's like that one person, especially like when maybe like we're younger or we're growing up, or even when we're older, honestly, like it can happen at any age. We shouldn't specifically put a time because when you fall for somebody, like that kind of stuff, you can find yourself in a sticky situation that you normally wouldn't if you didn't like feel so like you didn't long for this person so much.
So August is one of 3 songs on Folklore that create this quote love triangle that Ashley referenced. So there is the Cardigan, there is August, and there is Betty. And each of these 3 songs are sung from a different perspective. Cardigan is sung by Betty, who is the person who was cheated on. So she is the person who had a boyfriend and she was the one who was cheated on. James is the person who sings Betty. He is the cheater, and August is the other woman, for lack of a better phrase. So already, because of just the other woman trope, like the stereotype of how society treats the other woman in an affair like this, I think like there's an immediate like bias against August. But I think the beauty of this song is we see her point of view and we see how sad it is and we see how empathetic she is, that I think that a lot of people have come around to recognize that she's not the villain here as much as James is. But what are your thoughts on just the love triangle overall? Because we haven't done any of the 3 love triangle songs yet.
Yes. So I love the love triangle. You guys might have seen the August character. Some people refer to her as Augustine also, depending on people have different names for her. I use whatever makes sense in the moment. And because like, I mean, she's not real, but I feel like she is. And honestly, she's probably the character that I have like the most empathy for when hearing this, because I just feel like there was so much, like, there's so much more genuineness in like how she's singing about him than how, like, I don't even know how to word it, but I just always want to give her a hug and I just want to be like, James, you little dickhead, you're such a tool. But then again, like I always like I can hear his voice singing and Betty being like, I'm only 17, like I just really fucked up and I don't know exactly what to do. And like I don't think the hurt was intentional coming from necessarily anybody in this song, but damn, does she do a good job of like making you feel the feels for every single one of those people.
Yeah. Can I ask, just as like an overview before we dive more into the song, how do you rank the 3 songs? Like which one's your favorite and which one's your least favorite?
Betty's my favorite, then Cardigan, then August.
Okay, wow. So I don't know. Because they've all taken a turn in each of the spots for me. And I think right now I don't want to be that basic bitch that it's like, oh, it's August, so now I'm back on Team August. But like, this August has been historically my least favorite, but this time, and because I spent whenever we do these Taylor Swift songs, whenever Ashley and I pick the songs, I spend a good like 2 weeks listening to them and really getting prepared. I listen to my friends over at the 13 Taylor Swift fan podcast. I listen to one of my favorite YouTubers. Her name is Mend with Mare. She's a therapist and she analyzes each of the Taylor Swift songs and she's brilliant. She may even do a collaboration with us this fall, which is very fun. But I really appreciated this song and it sunk in with me. It absorbed into my pores in a way that it hadn't before. So Ash, I know we've jumped the gun here, but like, what is the Taylor Swift song of the day? What is and who wrote it?
Yeah. So the Taylor Swift song of the day is August. This song came out on Folklore, so that came out in 2022. It is track number 8. It was written by Taylor, Jack Antonoff, and Joe Alwyn. That's Taylor's ex-boyfriend. Produced by Taylor and Jack. And it's really about a summer love. Like, if you were going to take it like verbatim, it's about a summer love that just doesn't work out. And it's heartbreaking, and I feel like if you can listen, like you can feel the movement of this song, and like I feel like my arms automatically move almost in the shape of a wave. And then like I always did that when I like listened to the song, and then in the eras to where she kind of moves in that like same type of movements, and I'm like, oh my God, like that is exactly how, to me, this song feels. Like I always picture like an oceanside town and this girl who has like an old cheap car and she's picking up the boy that she likes. And she's just, and I think she's so beautiful in like the way that she describes this. And I'm talking about the character and Taylor Swift, but it just breaks my heart, this song. It's always hard because people are like, what's your ranking? And then like I could talk about it as if it was my child, of how much I love it. And I just feel like the lyrics of this song I feel like they can rip your heart out if you've ever had a summer love affair or like a vacation love or just a short-lived love. Even though Taylor does say that James and her end up together.
Yeah. Well, so
and then I'm like, poor Betty.
Yeah, poor Betty. So, the thing about this song, it reminds me how I see August and how I understand the story is like August really likes James and James doesn't really like her, but he he kind of plays with her, when it's convenient for him. I think she is deeply in love with him. She's obsessed with him. She's in love with the idea of him. And he just uses her for sex or to get his thrills or on the side. Like I almost think of it in like if Betty is Sidney Prescott, August is Christina Carpenter, and James is Billy Loomis. But, and I think that yet within all of that, it is a summer fling, but it's just interesting that it's love to one person, but nothing to another person. And that difference and that incongruity there's a lot of pain in that and not being on the same page. This has some of the most iconic Taylor Swift lyrics, I think. It's a depiction of nostalgia in a way. I think August she's almost romanticizing the nostalgia of this moment of the feelings she had and the thrills she had within this. So I don't know. I want to read some lyrics here. So I also think a big part of the song is August realizing the truth of everything that happened, despite the lies she made up in her own head or the lies he told. She's almost seeing the situation for what it is, but also romanticizing it. And that's a really dark place to be. And I don't know if anybody out there has experienced that. I definitely have, in terms of being so desperate for someone's attention and someone just treating you like you're just a convenience, So I'm going to read 2 big sections and then we'll go back to Ash. So part of the chorus is, but I can see us lost in the memory. August slipped away into a moment in time, 'cause it was never mine, 'cause you were never mine. Doot, 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 doot. So this was the bridge. Back when we were still changing for the better. Wanting was enough. For me, it was enough to live for the hope of it all. Cancel plans just in case you'd call and say, meet me behind the mall. So much for summer love and saying us, 'cause you weren't mine to lose. You weren't mine to lose. And oh my God. Chills. Ash.
Yeah, the lyric, because you weren't mine to lose. I love it. But I also love how there's that lyric about when you're young and you're living for the hope of it all. I feel like there's a lot there can be a lot of beauty in that, but this song, it just tears me apart so much for summer love and saying us. The thought of not being able to say us again with somebody that you love is just so heartbreaking. And I feel like so many people, I think I probably am so redundant because I probably say everybody could probably relate to this in every single episode. And sorry, y'all, but it's true. And I feel like there's a way that you can relate to the song, and it's just so sweet. And I want to give this fictional character a hug and be like, girl, you deserve way better.
Yeah. Well, I just want to go in just a little bit more here to the bridge. So she says, back when we were still changing for the better, wanting was enough. For me, it was enough. And that's so sad. The idea of not having any of your actual needs fulfilled, but just having this desire. And that's what kind of keeps you going. And just the idea that what could be, that's it's almost fulfilling her in a way that a lot of people would find fulfillment in an actual connection with somebody. And it's definitely something that I felt as a gay kid growing up. It was because, I couldn't date people. I couldn't date people that I was attracted to or that I wanted to date. The wanting, to live for the hope of it all. And I can't really relate to this song. Cancel plans just in case you'd call. I never did that, but there's an element of me that definitely would do that. If I had a crush on, a straight guy in high school, I would purposefully walk a certain way so that I could say hi to him as opposed to walking a more convenient way. And not that that's canceling plans, but it's the same concept. And I don't know, thoughts, Ash?
Oh my God, there was a guy that I liked for so long, and too long. Everybody knew it was too long. Now I look at it and go, why did you waste so much time? But I can't even imagine what I would have done if I had plans if he asked me to do something. I mean, depending on who it was with, I would not have canceled. But I remember a different person. I remember canceling plans with my friend. But I sent her a message and I was like, oh my God, this guy just asked me out, who she knew I liked. And she was like, I'm canceling our plans. That was kind of the opposite of this situation. My friend was like, oh my God, hell no, you're going to go out.
Yeah. And I mean, that's very August coded in a lot of ways. Just to get back to this one part of the song, which is there are some lyrics here that just have such profound depth to them. And it's just a woman wise beyond her years to describe the process of growing up. She says, back when we were still changing for the better. That to me, I get that line because it's there's a certain age I think you get to, maybe not everybody, because I think you're still I think Ashley's a very optimistic, pure, let's see the good in the world kind of person, whereas very cynical. And I think like for me, as I grew up, I think like there was a moment where I had a bright-eyed optimism, and then there was a switch. And I think that like that's what she's kind of talking about, is like back when we were still changing for the better, because then at some point when you start changing, you become more rigid and less open-minded to things. And I think that's what she's talking about there. And like this idea of to live for the hope of it all. Like I watched a TikTok that was very deep about this line, to live for the hope of it all. It's not only just within this relationship, not only for like the hope that August and James could work out in the future, but to wake up every day and you're living for something to get. And I think even still, the Ryan of today wakes up to live for the hope of it all, the hope that that Scream 7's going to be good, and the hope of fun with the podcast. I think that that's something that we all do, whether we know it or not. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I completely agree. And I think my switch was becoming more optimistic. I was super pessimistic for a long time. Very dark and angsty was Ashley. And I just was just like, this isn't working for me anymore. And like, I'm still pretty pessimistic when it comes to certain things, but I realized that hope in general is something that I really can connect with. And I see it all the time in people that I consider to be good, and people that I think deserve my time and my grace and forgiveness, and whatever it is all of those things. And I feel like when you're young, sometimes you have hope that's put in the wrong places. And as you get older, maybe you can kind of shuffle that into places that are more deserving of your compassion and your empathy and your hope. And I think it's one thing that I hope I never loses hope. I didn't really mean to say it as I was describing it, but yeah, it's something that I don't want to lose anymore, because I think there was a while where I didn't have much hope, and it's really dark when you're in that place. And so if you're there, my friends, like I hope that you can find a glimmer of something that brings you, like, if there's just like anything that can make a day a little bit brighter, and slowly like opening, like if you're in a dark room and like slowly opening windows, that each window is a little bit more hope and a little bit of brighter sunshine. And it could be, maybe I would love to hear that it's this podcast, or it's Love Island, or it's, I don't know, your cat, or that your favorite restaurant is releasing some new, like McDonald's is releasing a new type of chicken nugget dipping sauce. I don't care what it is, right? Like just that thing to look forward to and hold on to. I think that that's what that kind of encompasses. And I think a lot of people have taken that message and they've like tattooed that on themselves, be like, to live for the hope of it all, of just being like, I just want to live in general and not feel sad, but also have hope that all of this can get better. And that can be for like just like a small individual, one grain of sand, one person, or it can encompass like the world if you want to be real deep, which I feel like all of us hope that it gets better. Don't drink or do a shot every single time I say hope in this episode, because that would be bad.
Oh my gosh. Well, Ash, thank you so much for kicking off August with me. Please tell everybody where they can find you and our Instagram game of the week.
So you can find me at SquirrelandSpud9. You'll find a link to my Etsy store, and you'll find the Brian Ashley Scream game of the week, where we try to do a puzzle, try to trick you, try to make you take a deeper dive into Scream characters and see what you can find there. And if you guys ever have any ideas, please send them my way.
Well, Ash, thank you so much for everything that you do for the podcast. Happy August. Happy the beginning of this wonderful month. And I hope everybody enjoys the song August, the salt air, and the rust on your door. So thank you, everybody.
All copyrighted material used or referenced in this show belong to their rightful owners and made possible by the Fair Use Act.
And number 3, never, ever, ever, under any circumstances say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back.
Get another beer, you want one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back!